What's up, everybody? Welcome back. This is Forgo, and today we're going to do the top 12 tier 3 characters for Knull. And as always, this is just my opinion of who the best characters are for Knull. I do think a lot of you are going to agree with most of them. You might disagree with a little bit as far as where I place them, and we're going to rank them from the worst to the best. And remember that a lot of these characters that I don't even mention, that there's going to be in throughout here, they can absolutely do Knull. I've done clears with many characters that are not going to be on this list. They can definitely do it, but I just don't think they're the best characters. And spoiler alert, you see number 12, number 11, and number 10. And the first one is Venom. And the reason I put Venom on here is, even though I don't have him at tier 3, I know he can clear Knull. I know he can absolutely do it. He's close to on par with Carnage, maybe a little bit weaker. I'm not really sure. I don't think he's as strong as Carnage, but I know he can absolutely do it. I've seen videos of him do it. He's got the nice damage accumulation. This plus 1.5% is nuts. And even after you do your tier 3, you can actually go into your regular skills and still have this damage accumulation, which means lots and lots of power. You got the 25% attack buff. You got the invincibility. He has native heals. It's just wonderful, right? The only thing bad about him, and it's kind of similar to Carnage, is you got to kind of run around a little bit to pick up your heals. It's pretty annoying, but he does have immunity. He's got lots of survivability. Just a terrific character, really, for it. I don't think the best by any means, and that's why he's at 12, but he also has the ignore target dodge rate from his tier 2 passive, which is awesome. That means you only need 2 ignore dodge strikers to be able to get enough ignore dodge to take down Knull, and that's a big one right there for him. But I might have him ranked higher depending on if I had him at tier 3 or not, then I'd know how strong he actually is. The next one is Magneto. Now, Magneto is a very underrated character. This is a character that has a nice damage increase on his tier 3 by 50%. He has some paralyzed. He has invincibility on his 4th skill, which we all know is really great for Knull. And even on his 5th skill, he has damage accumulation that's plus 1.5%, which is awesome. You know, you always want to see damage accumulation on a lot of these characters. You always want to see invincibility. The only bad thing about Magneto is his survivability. He kind of sits stationary in front of him, and he can take a lot of damage. Plus, he has a self-buffing leadership. A caveat to this character is that you do have to use a CTP of Rage if you really want him to be optimized, but he can play with a proc. In fact, he's so strong. I mean, this is stage 2. This is just him, no other supports, and that's what all these little videos are going to be of all these characters. He can absolutely destroy Knull. I mean, we're pretty much melting it, and this is why he's on this list. He's a very underrated character, and a character that doesn't get talked about at all from a lot of people. I've made video about him doing a clear. I've talked to other players that get clears from him, and he's melting it. And by the way, guys, if you're clearing this in 1 minute and 30 seconds, then you're absolutely on track to be able to beat it. Magneto's strong. You know, when I made a video about him, really the only criticism I mainly had was the fact that you do need a healing striker for him. He's just going to take too much damage. He doesn't have a lot of HP. They gave him a low HP pull, which I thought was a bunch of crap. And there you have it, guys. You know, 1 minute 30, no problem. The next on this list is Carnage. Now, Carnage I put above Magneto because Carnage is actually more proc friendly. Plus, on my account, I have 55% physical attack, whereas I have 83% energy attack for Magneto. Plus, my Magneto's got Odin's blessings, and my Carnage doesn't. He doesn't have any Odin's blessings. You know, I'm using a CTP of energy here in this run that you're watching, and Carnage is just amazing because he does, again, he has a damage proc on his tier 3. He has damage accumulation on his 5th skill, plus 1%. So it's not like Magneto where he has plus 1.5. Carnage has plus 1. Carnage does really great damage. A bad thing, a real caveat to this character is with his 4th skill, it's actually worse than Venom's, where you do the 4th skill and you're spreading around. You got to run around and collect those heals, and it really sucks. Plus the long cooldown on that 4th skill. But Carnage is an absolute monster. Plus, he has a 35% increase of all attack and 35% crit rate on his 3rd skill that lasts for 12 seconds, and that's on a 7.5 second cooldown. So you always keep that up. Plus, the 3rd skill gives him native super armor. And with all these little runs that you're going to watch, I'm going to be just face tanking Knull. Again, I'm just using their leadership. So right now, Carnage has no physical attack leadership, nothing. All he's getting is his critical rate increase by 6%, and critical damage increase by 18% leadership. No physical attack leadership, no extra support. And that way it really shows you guys just how strong these characters are. Now in some of these runs, it might not be the best run because I just kind of came in here, did a quick little, run to clear out the first phase of Knull, and there you have it. Now number 9 on this list is Black Bolt. Now Black Bolt's a really awesome character because he is very strong. He does have invincibility on his fifth skill. He also has 40% all attack buff and a 40% crit rate buff on his fifth skill. He has damage accumulation 0.7% on his third skill. And the damage accumulation isn't as good as Magneto and Carnage, but he just does so many hits. He does so much damage, and that's probably why they didn't give him as much damage accumulation as those other characters. And his tier 3, does give him invincibility. Really his tier 3, plus he gets that 35% damage proc on his tier 3. It does amazing damage. And another reason why Black Bolt is on this list is because we have another character in Medusa that you can bring in here, and his leadership actually gets, he actually gets bumped up by Medusa. So if you have Medusa and Black Bolt on this team, you're going to do really well. Even a lower level account should be able to do fairly decent as long as your Black Bolt is built pretty good. The bad thing about Black Bolt is he does use a rage, and that's really the most optimal way to play this character. CTB of energy is okay, he can put in work, but I honestly don't know how good he would be with one. With a rage, he's pretty monstrous. I mean, you see he's melting these bars all by his lonesome, no problem. Easy peasy for Black Bolt. The other thing about Black Bolt is, because you rely on a rage, you're hoping you land some critical hits, that way the rage will proc. And Black Bolt doesn't have any native critical or guaranteed critical rate. However, he just does so many hits. A lot of times he'll do critical hits, and he will proc the rage more often than other characters. He also has ignore target dodge rate by 45% in his tier 3. Then we have Doctor Strange. And Doctor Strange is actually super underrated here. This is an amazing character that you can just keep resetting his tier 3 over and over and over super fast. His tier 3 has a 40% all attack buff, but it also has invincibility and an increased damage proc by 40% for 2 attacks. It's an amazing skill. And he also has the crazy 80% increase of all attack on his fifth skill. The bad thing about Doctor Strange is he has good survivability because he has a heal. He has 7 seconds of immunity on his fifth skill, but he doesn't have any super armor. So you got to get that tier 3 up. But the thing is, you'll get knocked around a little bit when you're playing with this character, and he absolutely needs a rage. But once you get your tier 3 ready to go, you'll get that invincibility. You're not going to get guard broken against Knull, and you can just start melting bars. Doctor Strange is insanely strong, very good for this, and even with his leadership, he has ignore target dodge rate by 20%, plus he has a 30% increase of energy attack buff for all allies. So he's also a great leadership to add a little extra ignore dodge, and the 30% increase of energy attack. He's a total monster. I actually use him. He works super well, especially when you're using him with other energy attacking characters, because he buffs him, he gives him the ignore dodge, and he's just an insane monster himself. Totally melts Knull like it's nothing. Booyah. And then coming in at number 7 is Thor. Now I was really torn on where to put Thor, to be perfectly honest, because my bias for the character sometimes could get in the way of where I really think he should be. But the truth is, Thor is very strong, that is for sure, but he absolutely needs a rage. He needs a rage, something fierce. I don't know how well he's going to play with a proc, but Thor does have invincibility on his tier 3. He has an increased damage proc by 35% on his tier 3. He has the invincibility on the 5th skill, but it's only for 3 seconds. And then he has that 4th skill, and this is the reason why he isn't a little bit higher. The 4th skill has this long charge that you have to use for so long before you get the maximum buffs. And if you do get the maximum buffs, you get 60% increase of all attack and 35% increase of crit rate. He also has damage accumulation that's 0.6%. I've always wished that Thor should be a little bit stronger, and that may be because of my bias, but really the Herald of Galactus should be a bit stronger. It doesn't mean he isn't strong. He absolutely is. He's a total monster. He really is. I mean, I've got friends that's done stage 7 with this guy against Knull with a bunch of extra supports. And another thing about Thor that kind of sucks is, unlike Black Bolt, Thor doesn't have, you see, Thor's stronger than Black Bolt, but Thor, he doesn't have any guaranteed critical rate. And it doesn't seem like he procs the rage as consistently as someone like Black Bolt. The only reason I put Thor really above Black Bolt is that I do know he's stronger. I know when you get really good runs that he is an absolute monster and can melt those damn bars. This is actually a very bad run, so don't judge Thor by this run right here. He absolutely is stronger than Doctor Strange and Black Bolt, at least in my opinion, but he really relies on proccing that damn rage when it needs to proc. The only reason this is even taking as long as it is because of that. That rage just isn't really wanting to cooperate, which really makes him a bit annoying to play with at times. Now we have Star-Lord. Now Star-Lord, some of you probably wondered, why would you put Star-Lord above Thor? Well, I'm going to put Star-Lord above Thor because he works a lot better with a damage proc. That's a big reason why. Star-Lord also has damage accumulation plus 1%. He also has a 45% increase of all attack on his fifth skill. He has immunity on his fourth skill. And he doesn't have any super armor, and he doesn't have any invincibility except on his tier 3. He also has a 50% increase of all attack and 30% crit rate buff on his tier 3. His tier 3 really is insane. It gives him ignore target dodge rate by 80%. So you could actually bring Star-Lord in here. And as long as whenever you use your tier 3, you're going to do some really good damage to Knull because he won't be dodging your attacks. The truth is, he's super strong and he's just easier to play than someone like Thor. And that's why I put him up here. And he can use a damage proc. Star-Lord can put in some serious work with a proc. And that's the truth of it. He can do really, really well. Very, very strong character. And if you have a rage on this character, he does have guaranteed critical rate. So he actually procs the rage really well, very often. He's much more consistent than other characters. That's another reason I put him above Thor. I know some of you might disagree with that. You might let your bias get in the way. But I really feel that Star-Lord just is a little bit better than him for all the reasons that I just mentioned. And Star-Lord is one of my go-tos. Plus, Star-Lord has a self-buffing leadership that's 55% increase of energy attack to blast types. And a lot of the strongest characters we have, like Sharon Rogers, Moonstone, they're blast characters. So he's a great character to have for some damage dealing, and he buffs some super strong characters as well. And at number 5, we have Ghost Rider. Now, Ghost Rider is absolutely insane. I do have a CTP of Judgment on him, and I know a lot of you might be happy where I placed this guy. He does have invincibility on his tier 3. He also has an increased damage proc by 30% for one attack on his tier 3, but he has 100% ignore dodge on his tier 3. That is massive. Every time he does his tier 3, Knull is not going to dodge any of his attacks. And then, of course, with his tier 2 passive, he increases damage dealt to supervillains by 120%, which is absolutely insane. And then his third skill actually gives him 4 seconds of invincibility. He goes into an iframe. He gets an increased damage proc by 250%. The damage this guy puts out is absolutely insane. Plus, he has ignore iframe on the third skill. And then on the fifth skill, he has a 25% increase of all attack damage proc. And he has 5 seconds of invincibility. So he's got a lot going on for him to take down Knull. The ignore target dodge rate, the attack buffs, and just the damage output of Ghost Rider is just absolutely insane. We all know how strong he is. The caveat to Ghost Rider is you really want to be using either a CTP of Judgment or a CTP of Rage for this guy. You're going to find he's going to be pretty difficult with a damage proc because you really want that fifth skill to kind of play out a little bit. And a lot of times it'll trigger it early, and he does have a long cooldown on his third skill. But look at how fast he did that. That's on his own with nothing. No support or nothing. Monstrous character. And at number 4, we have Sharon Rogers. And yeah, I put Sharon Rogers above Ghost Rider because Sharon Rogers is stronger than him. Now, in this run you're going to watch here, it's not really going to show because Sharon Rogers, sometimes she misses her attacks. Sometimes you really got to time what you're doing with her. You got to take damage when you're running through your regular skills. However, when you do her tier 3, this thing has an increased damage proc by 110%. And whenever you do your tier 3, as long as you do your third skill before you do your tier 3, you'll get the maximum amount of cumulative damage automatically, which is insane. Sharon is really a monstrous character. Your fifth skill gives her a nice critical rate buff by 35% and a little bit of a heal as well. and her third skill does give her damage accumulation based on how much damage you take. Now that is kind of a caveat that you have to take damage, but again, when you do her tier 3, it just accumulates her maximum amount of accumulated damage automatically as long as you get the third skill before doing the tier 3. So when I play with her, I just pretty much rely on her tier 3. And she really synergizes well with some very strong characters. You know, you got Cyclops leadership, you have Star-Lord's leadership. She synergizes super well with them, and she's a monstrous character. Sharon can go very, very high against Knull, and I do believe even better than Ghost Rider. But correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. And she plays well with the damage proc, and that's a big thing about her. You only need to play with a damage proc with this character, and everybody gets her for free in the game, which is insane. So now we are in the top 3, and guess who? Cable. Cable. Ever since this guy got his tier 3, he has been monstrous. And I'm sorry I'm not playing with the Kid Cable uniform. I just always play with the Summer Days uniform because I already have a Mythic. So this is what I play with. But if you were playing with Kid Cable, he'd still have the same placement, to be perfectly honest. But his tier 3 really doesn't have a whole lot, except for the damage increase by 45%. He does have all defense down, but that doesn't apply to Knull. But he does have the guaranteed critical rate in his passive, so if you did put a rage, it'd be good. But honestly, Cable doesn't need it. He plays super well with an energy, unless you're using the Kid Cable uniform and you want to optimize him in ABX. A rage would be better. He does have the damage accumulation based on how much damage you deal by 0.7%. It's the same for the Kid Cable uniform. And on his 5th skill, at least with the Summer Days uniform, he just does a nice long channeling skill. Cable just does a lot of raw damage. That's really the thing about him. I mean, look at how fast he's melting this. And he has the 50% ignore dodge leadership. So with the CTP of energy, he has enough ignore dodge that Knull isn't going to be dodging his attacks. Total freaking monster. And coming in at number 2 is the god himself, Odin. Now, I didn't do any gameplay with Odin because I just don't have an obelisk on him. But believe me, he is massively strong. Can definitely do stage 9 Knull clears. Total monster. And the reason being is he does have a damage proc on his tier 3 by 40%. Now that isn't much, but Odin just has a lot of raw damage, and you can combine all of his skills together to do a serious amount of accumulated damage. Plus he has damage accumulation by his plus 1% on his 3rd skill based on how much damage you deal. And then the immunity, of course, he also has a native heal. He has the ignore target dodge rate by 100%, and this is massive for this character. So you don't need any ignore dodge strikers for him. You can just use the 4th skill, and you're always going to have 100% ignore dodge. That is massive against Knull. And then he also has a 30% increase of all attack and a critical rate by 30%. What can I say about Odin other than, oh yeah, and he also has 4 seconds invincibility. What can I say about Odin other than that? He's just a freaking insane god. And last but not least, and this comes at no surprise, is Knull. And we all know how strong Knull is. He gets a 30% increase of all attack from his tier 3. He also has invincibility on his 5th skill with a 35% increase of all attack and a critical rate buff by 44%. And by the way, keep in mind when you're watching this run that he isn't even getting his attack buff from his 5th skill because I'm canceling it immediately. Plus he has a nice heal on his 5th skill. He has a plus 1% damage accumulation on his 4th skill that lasts for 12 seconds on a 9-second cooldown. And then of course he has the Pierce. He has super armor from his 3rd skill. Really because of the Pierce and the fact that you can just put all these skills together makes Knull just a massive monster. You know, easily the strongest character in Marvel Future Fight when it comes to PvE content. And it shows right here. I mean, he's doing this with the CTP of energy. That's another reason he's at the top. He's at the top because you can play with an energy. He does insanely well with the damn thing. He's the guy that I use for my stage 9 Knull clears. So that concludes the best characters for Knull. Let me know if you disagree or agree with my choices. And where would you rank these tier 3s? And would you put any of these other tier 3s on this list? Also, I'm streaming Marvel Future Fight on Twitch at 10 p.m. GMT plus 7 time every single day. So I hope all of you join me. The link to the Twitch channel is in the description below. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. Y'all take care and have a good one.